Hi, and welcome. I am Rebecca, the Route 66 Stitcher. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my very first floss tube. I spend a little bit of time introducing myself. I actually do live in a southern Missouri town that is on the old historic Route 66. I moved here a few years before the pandemic from the Front Range, Denver area of Colorado. It has been a bit of a acclimation process coming into this area from a very urban setting and having grown up in a very urban setting. So I took a 4-decade hiatus, for lack of a better word, from cross-stitching. I learned cross-stitching and needlework from my grandmother, who had some skills. Not gonna lie, had some skills. My mother, his skill set was crocheting, knitting, and sewing, quilting. Not my skill set, didn't pick up any of those three, but definitely picked up the embroidery and the cross-stitch from my grandmother. So if it misses a generation, so be it. At least it keeps moving forward. Kind of left it off as I became an older teenager and started working jobs and school and then college and career, family, all of the above. Came back to cross stitch after a hiatus a couple years prior to the pandemic, after my husband died, where I was truly going through an empty nest stage of, wow, now what do I do to fill my time and keep me off the streets? And basically surface embroidery and cross stitch kind of filled that void for me. So without further ado, I do have 3 fully finished items to show you, and before we get to a couple finished items. And the first one I want to show you is, I'm pretty proud of this beast, and this is Plague Doctor. And Plague Doctor is a design by Busby Designs, and I started them at the beginning of the pandemic. Lots of Plague Doctor patterns going around. They became very hot commodity. I chose them because they have this really, really cool steampunk vibe going on, and I just love it. Used all of the called for DMC, and there is a literal ton of 310 in this. And this is on a 40 count Mystic Fabrics linen that I got from a grab bag. Now, I learned a lot. I actually learned quite a bit with this piece about myself and what I like. So there you go. This piece is 5 billion confetti stitches. And as you can tell, it's pretty large. And as you can tell, it's pretty large and pretty full coverage. And they spent a lot of time in the bad project timeout closet. Not gonna lie, the last half of the stitch on this was pretty much a slog for me. I did find out I don't care for full coverage confetti stitching. So I know a lot of people live for it. I did not find this enjoyable at all. What I do find really, really enjoyable, I absolutely adore, is I love them now that they are done. I did finish with just I did lint roll this. Cat fur is my specialty fiber. Just finished this with just a basic heathered wool. And it was fortunately a standard size for pillow inserts that you can purchase right off of Amazon. So that is my Plague Doctor. My second fully finished object I have to show you is from Annie B's Folk Art, and it's God Save the Queen. And I did this in none of the called fors, and you'll see why. And there she is. And I love them. I'm all about saving the queens. As you can tell, I obviously made some design choices that I'll talk you through in a minute. This is on a 30 count Royal Bee. See the bees in the background? It's stamped onto the linen. This is a Royal Bee linen from Primitive Hair. I'm using Gentle Arts for the floss along with DMC. I changed the crown and the wings to metallics. And then I put some beading in the crown because every queen, whoop, come on, focus. Focus, there we go. Every queen deserves some jewels in their crown. And then I used some beads for the stamens of the flowers as well. Now probably the most catching thing on this, of course, is themselves in all their glory, is I was obsessed with making a fuzzy bumble. I don't know why I thought I had to have a fuzzy bumble. I just had to have a fuzzy bumble. And what I ended up with is a fuzzy bumble bikini. And now that I've said it's a bumble bikini, you cannot unsee that. Cannot unsee that. Stitched the texture, the texture using a stitch called the turkey stitch. And the turkey stitch is not gobble gobble. It is actually from the region, and it is the hand knotting stitch that is used to hand tuft carpet. And so you stitch the fibers and then you cut them back to make the shape and the length of the pile that you want. And then you use, I used a little toothbrush and a little frog picker thing to actually fray the edges of the fiber to make it fuzzy. I didn't cut as much up here. This is more of a shag carpet look. And I actually kind of vacillate between I want to trim it up and no I don't. I want to leave it as a shag carpet. A little more shaggy, a little bit more texture up here for them. This is actually going to be a holiday gift for a friend of mine. So God save the Queen. My third fully finished object is a ornament done in none of the called fors. And this ornament is a pattern by Durrain Jones, and it is a mixture of cross stitch and pulled in cut or drawn techniques, commonly referred to as hardanger. And there she is. And let me see if I can get that to focus a little better. And I'm holding her by the hanger because it's actually doesn't sway around as much. And let me see if I can get that to focus a little bit. There it is. The variegated thread is DMC. The red pearl cotton is a 12 weight, and it is Valdani. And those are the little ittiest bittiest dove's eyes and eyelets you will ever seen. The fabric behind the cut work, the drawn work, is actually, I just faced it with the linen that it was stitched on. So I took this on because I actually enjoyed doing this kind of work. As a kid, I actually enjoyed doing all the cut work and the wrapping and the needle weaving. I thought it was fun. And my grandmother told me that I was good at it. And looking back at it now, I'm pretty sure she was just trying not to crush my soul, although I may have been fairly good at it for the age level that I was. But I'm not good at it anymore. It's obviously a skill that is not like riding a bicycle, right? I actually have to practice it to become good at it. I made a lot of mistakes with this. The number one was, and you can see by the size, is that I chose a 40 count linen. And when you use a high count for drawn thread, the threads have no place to move. So it really doesn't show well. I made a mistake by choosing for my first piece probably a shaped three-dimensional, so all three sides, which are the same. And so yeah, lots of mistakes made, and I chose poorly for the hanger. It's much too big and broad for the actual size of the ornament itself. It's actually falling apart up here. I don't have it because of the fact that it's too broad. It didn't bury well in there, and it's not secure, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to take it apart and put something else in there, if I'm just going to fabric glue it and call it done. I don't know. I'll get back to you. So those are my three fully finished objects. Oh, before I forget, if you have any interest in hardinger or doing pulled or drawn thread work, Doreen Jones has some great patterns that are a mix of the old and modern. She's modernized a lot of these patterns, and she does an amazing job at describing how to do the different techniques, and it really does a great job. And the patterns that you get, they're PDFs through the Etsy store, but they go on for pages because she's so detailed in how to actually be successful with the patterns. So if you have any interest at all, check her out. She really does have some interesting things. She has interesting patterns that are not what people would refer to as specialty work either. So definitely check those out. All right. I do have, hold please. Apologies, my allergies are really kicking, and getting a little froggy at times over the past couple weeks. Anywho, I do have a couple finished objects to show you, and one of them is actually going to be related to this that I have here, which is not new. I haven't finished this recently. This is actually from 2020. And this is the Peppermint Sal 2020 Blackwork. This is a free sal that Peppermint Purple runs in 2020. Claire, the owner and designer for Peppermint Purple, was going to do this Blackwork sal anyways. Actually, it started it and released it in December, and done some of the outlines and get the right size fabric and everything. And this actually was the week that the world shut down. Right there. And it just continued on. This is actually on an 18 count Aida from Mystic Fabrics. And there you go. Now, this is where sometimes I think about my thought processes and go, what is wrong with you? I will actually scroll by patterns that speak to me in every other way, but look at them and go, there is way too much backstitch. I don't know how anybody could expect anybody to do that much backstitch. Love, love, love Blackwork. And I do understand that Blackwork does have double running back stitches and some specialty stitches, so the pattern can be reversible. Claire did not design the sals, any of these patterns, to be reversible. It's much harder to design reversible pattern motifs than non-reversible. So, but yeah, all backstitch. This is DMC. I know it looks like 310. This is actually DMC 500. It's very dark green. So why am I showing you this? Well, I'm showing you this because, again, I figured out that I really do like doing blackwork, and it's really, I find kind of soothing. I like the patterns. I'm kind of drawn to the geometric patterns and the symmetry of that. And so I did this as a pillow cover for a friend of mine. I was going to get it for Christmas. And this pattern is called The Dance, and it's by Brody Salazar. and it's free from her website that I will link, of course, for everybody. Kim is quite the Blackwork historian. She actually has some books, and she has a lot of patterns, the more modernized versions like the dance, and then she has a lot of patterns that are, what is that? Specialty fiber. Thank you, Kat. A lot of patterns that are old Blackwork patterns that are now in the Creative Commons domains that are available for you for free from her site as well. This actually fits a standard size pillow insert that I can buy at Joann's or Amazon's. And what I did was I did the inside boxes first because I knew how much the border was going to, how much room the border would take in terms of width, and then add from both sides, and to make sure I had something that would fit a standard pillow form and I wasn't having to stuff with polyfill. I haven't decided, I'm of two minds here, quite honestly, as to whether to remove the boxes from the middle and just leave that completely black. This is a 32 count black Lugana, just basic 32 count black Lugana, or to leave those boxes. That was a lot of work to put all those boxes in, not gonna lie. And I would hate to take them out to figure out that I actually really do like them better than the basic black, but I think the basic black would be great too and really make the border pop. And I don't know. What do you think? What is your opinion on that? Please tell me. The thread, in case you're interested, is Weeks Dye Work. Put that there. There we go. Weeks Dye Work, and it is called Confetti. Is Weeks Dye Work, and it is called Confetti. And I chose this because my friend lives in San Antonio, Texas. And these are the colors of her house. Every room she has painted a different bright color. So that's my finished pillow. I do have another finished object. Again, this is going to have to be all of what I'm showing you, most of what I'm showing you today is actually going to be holiday gifts, so they will be fully finished here shortly. Is Gobsmacked. And Gobsmacked is a Sassi Stitches boutique. It's a special order for me. The background remains the same. She'll change the word to whatever you want in the middle. It is stitched on a 40 count Mystic Fabrics grab bag linen from, I don't even remember when. Actually, it says linen grab bag 2020. Okay, so for over a year ago. And I have used most of the called for DMCs. I've substituted like the very deep burgundies, and then the blues, the bright blues over here are substituted with some silks just to give it a little bit more depth. And I have also used Étoile for some pop, and then around the actual, there you go. I've used treasure braid around the cross stitches that make up the word just to outline that. Come on. Actually, that just shows the shiny, doesn't it? All right. So Gobsmacked came about. It's for a friend of mine that I work with, that during the pandemic, a lot of the emails and a lot of the talk back and forth, I don't know if they had got like a free subscription to BritBox, or they were watching a lot of like reruns of British TV shows on YouTube or Netflix or what, but there was obviously a UK influence all of a sudden in their life, and started using words like gobsmacked and responses bloody hell. And I think I even at one point in time heard a couple shut your cake hole. That a thing? So there you go. That's Gobsmacked. I'm going to finish Gobsmacked in a hoop. I haven't decided whether I'm doing a fabric back to that hoop. I haven't actually seen those nice thread, multicolored thread designs. So Gobsmacked, everybody. The bloody hell lay down correctly. There we go. All right, that's all I have for finished objects for right now. I'm going to go ahead and show you my whips. You might be wondering why all of a sudden I decided to start the Flosstube process, and that's actually a legitimate question. Why now? It's because until very, very recently, I was a completely monogamous stitcher. Completely. This actually kind of stressed me out a little bit because I had other things I was stitching at the same time. And I always knew that nobody wants to see you stitch the same thing, right? My work in progress, here it is, the same thing as last week. So I didn't feel like I had anything that anybody might even potentially be interested in seeing, even though I knew that a floss tube would help keep me accountable. If I had some kind of routine or rhythm, it'd help keep me moving forward, so to speak. Not pressure, but accountability, self-accountability, if you will. And I was watching Julie, the Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, mid-year whip review. And she opened by saying, I want your judgment. And she was kinder than that. And even with that, and even though I was there because I wanted to see all those whips, I love the work she does, and I'm very interested in the work she does. There was part of me that kept going like 3/4 of the way in. I was like, well, this is shameless amounts of whip. And started getting all pearl clutchy and fanny counchy. Shameless. And I had to actually have a chat with myself as to why am I having this reaction? This means absolutely nothing. This impacts me in zero way. Not my money, not my supplies, not my storage problems. The only way that this impacts me is beneficially. I'm here because I want to see it. I like it. I want to see it. And I get great ideas from her, and that's why I'm here. And so I had to really think about, why am I overreacting with this? Kind of really judgy there for a minute. And I came to recognize the fact that, again, completely monogamous at that point, and was stressed by having more than one going on, and came to that it's a training that I received from my family when I was young that hasn't stopped. And that was that we were all allowed to do arts and crafts. It was supportive music lessons, dance lessons, whatever it is that you want to do, we will support in some ways. Granted, there's not unlimited funds, but we will find a way to support you and your growth in artistic endeavors of some sort. But one at a time, right? So if I had an embroidery piece going on, I had to be one at a time, and I had to be 85 to 90% finished before I could pick out my next project. And I had to be completely finished with the project prior to receiving the supplies to do the next one. So it was one at a time. I have to finish what you start. Same with the music lessons and dance lessons. It was sort of like, yeah, we'll find the money, we'll figure it out, make it happen, sports lessons, whatever. But you're going to be in that recital. So you better be sure that you're going to put in your time for a year. You are going to be in the recital. And I was still operating in my stitching in that mindset. I have to be 85 to 90% complete with a project before I can even start looking at starting the next one. And, you know, that was all me. That was all completely me. And recognize that. I backed immediately away from the shameless whip hussy. Shameless. To a more of a, I need to let my whip hussy fly a little bit. So I do have some whips to show you. And the first one that I have, and it is, oops, hold please. So I do have more than one whip to show you. And the first one I have is another reason that I showed you Peppermint Purple's 2020 sal is I am working on Peppermint Purple's 2021 Blackwork sal. And she has two options available this year. Claire gave us two options. The rectangular one that actually matches this, or you can do a square version. And the rectangular one of last year's, the boxes went straight across week by week. This year she's mixed up the layout a little bit, so just a slight change. This is on Mystic Fabrics. This is a 36 count linen, and I feel like this fabric actually has a real name, and it's not Unipoo. I don't remember what it is, and I feel really bad about that. And again, so not using any of the called fors or suggested. Actually, Claire uses much more suggestion than called for. And I am stitching this with a Colorado Company silk, Treenway silks, and it's a coordinating dye lot of the variegated with the Bordeaux for the boxes, and then I have the bluish purple for any of the words or whatever the fill may be. And if you go to the Peppermint Purple Facebook group or to the website itself, you will see people are so inventive and absolutely so creative with their sale and how they're doing it. It's really, really turned into be something fantastic. And then I want you to remember when I said how much I disliked full coverage and confetti stitches when I picked this as one of my patterns. And this is called Northern Lights by Stitchrovia. And this is 18 count Aida. It is Mystic Fabrics Galaxy. It is actually the last piece of Aida I ever purchased. I use even weave of some type in linen now, but this is actually perfect for this particular pattern. And I am using all of the called for DMCs, which are absolutely stunning colors. Stunning. And I actually, when I have this many colors that I'm dealing with, I actually prefer the palettes to thread drops, because the ring can get, I actually had these on a ring, and it was jam-packed full, and I couldn't see anything well without having to flip through all of it. And on these project cards, I basically just write the number of the floss. Again, these are all DMCs, and these are all the called for. And I put the symbol. And so I have these hanging on my stand, so I just look over quickly and grab one. I have to tell you, Stitchrovia was the first time that I actually received, it's a PDF, and it's the entire pattern. It's made for the mobile and a tablet, which is what I work off of, and loved it. I will buy more of their patterns just because of the fact that they have that option. And I do buy patterns that the designers themselves do not offer a PDF version for. It doesn't stop me from buying paper versions of patterns. I will absolutely support that. I just will scan them in and work off of a PDF. I'm old. I need to blow things up and see it. And since I work off of an iPad, Pattern Keeper doesn't really work for me. So there we go. My next up is a project that I am working on. Again, this is a holiday present for a friend of mine who has one of the coolest jobs in the whole world. I didn't even know it was a job or a career option. And that is, she is a medical librarian at a large teaching hospital. And this actually became, I can do all things. And I'm on the fence about this. This is everywhere's right now. Everywhere's. And I don't know who did it first. I will link the designer I purchased this from. And I feel bad about not mentioning their name here if they were the first. And again, it's one of those things where may have been, may not have been. I don't know. I am actually going to go back and do some decorative board embroidery. I'm going to do some flowers and maybe some leaves and some vines. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I'm waiting on the hoop that this is actually going to be finished on to see what kind of space I have before I make those decisions. And then I used for this is actually a 25 count Lugana, 25 count, and it's stitched 1/1. And I am using black cherry silk from Fiberlicious Fibers for the words. And I have a couple of variegated Threadworks lined up for the flowers or whatever detail work I'm going to add, decoratively speaking. So there we go. And so my last one, again, is another case of me overstepping skill and competence, where did not mesh well at all, is I found on the Doreen Jones Etsy site other patterns. I actually purchased quite a few patterns. I was there. And one of them was for this Biscornu that I'm making for a friend for the holidays, and using none of the called for. And here's the top of the Biscornu. And this is on a Mystic Fabrics 40 count linen. And DMC for the cross stitching, and then the ships and the cluster blocks and satin stitching is all with pearl cotton, mainly Baldani. And this ended up in the bad project closet in an extended timeout because I was really frustrated with it. And again, all because I chose the wrong fabric in terms of count, 40 count. So I actually went back and read the instructions and chose recommended count and type of fabric for this pattern that was from the designer itself, and I ended up with a 28 count linen. Again, not called for. None of this is called for colors or thread. And look at the difference. Yeah. All right. Can actually see the details. I switched out some of the cross stitches for beads. We can get on the bees themselves. Give them a little bit more depth. I have beads on the ships instead of beads on the ship, instead of French knots. There we go. So yes, this is the top, and I have the top completely finished. There's supposed to be cable stitches in here. But the button that I have to go in the middle, it would cover them, so I'm not going to stitch those. Still need to cut and do all the needle weaving within those four corners, but I'm going to finish doing the basic stitch on the bottom first. And the bottom also has a lot of open work, a lot of cross stitch in the middle, and a lot of eyelets, ton of eyelets. And so we're going to get that finished up, and I am using DMC for all the cross stitching. They're all cross stitching. That little key fob makes it really nice and hang there. Good job. And I use Wonderfill number 8 weight cotton for the cluster blocks as color 908. I am using Valdani 12 weight 1262 for the ships and the satin stitches here. I am using Valdani PT2, which is a heathered Valdani. It's a mix of a greenish brown and this lime green. PT2, and it is for the stems, using that, and it's a 12 weight as well. And then I am using, hold please, 12 weight, this is a 12 weight, Nasturtiums by Chameleon. And Chameleon is a company out of South Africa, hand-dyed out of South Africa. So that's what I'm using for this. And there we go. So I only have the 4 whips to show you, and I don't have any haul at all, which sounds tragic, but not really, because I have made plans, and I have my tickets, and I have my reservations, and I am out the door a little later on this week for Needlework Galleria. And I have signed up for a ton of classes and round robins, and I'm planning on doing major amounts of shopping, and we'll be bringing back a lot of whippages, and is that a word? Whippages? Yeah, I like it. We're going to go with that, although I probably should check the internet and make sure it doesn't mean anything unfortunate. Hold please. Okay, so whippage, WIPPAGE, doesn't even have a hashtag, so it's safe to use. Whippage with an H, WHIPPAGE, is a completely different story. So, 2 meanings for that. One is soccer related, and the other is not. Anywho, Needlework Galleria, I'm very, very excited to meet some people, put some faces behind some of the names that I see on Facebook and Instagram and other people that I know that are going, and I'm just really, really excited about connecting with the community. So stay tuned. My next video will be all about the round robins and all of the stuff that I'm bringing back from Galleria. And I do thank you so much for stopping by and checking me out. I do appreciate your patience.